Welcome back again. I have fixed my angle grinder. Basically, if you don't know, an angle grinder lasts about the amount of time it takes to restore one Mini. So when you start restoring another one, the brushes have already worn out. Anyway, here is a brush. As you can see, it's pretty short from the bottom to the top here. And then down in there, there's now a hole, and that's where the safety short comes through and stops your angle grinder from working. It wouldn't be a hole, there'd be a pin, but I pulled it out so I could use the angle grinder briefly. But basically, these are like £3 or something. There's the little bag, Bosch part number, whatever. Take your angle grinder, take that screw out at the bottom, if it's one of these Bosch ones. This whole cover will come off, and then you can just take the brushes out, put the new ones in, and they're about 3 times the length of this one. I'm also going to treat the angle grinder to a brand new flap disc. So time to start investigating down in this corner, and I'll bring you back in when I've done a load of grinding and cutting and see where we're at. Here we are, getting into this part then. So basically drilled out the spot welds up the back here and then round. So that's 2 connection points released. The next part is laying on my back up under here, removing that plate which is all rusty. So yeah, I'm going to get absolutely filthy trying to get that section out. Once that section is out, then we can maybe deal with this little hole here, and then obviously put the new bit up there depending on how good the metal is that's left. Here we are under the car then, trying to release this plate using what is probably one of the best tools that I use. It's a cheap paint scraper, I think, from B&Q. The thickness of it is pretty narrow and it's flexible, so you can even hear where the wheel well sticks out. You can still get it under and bend it like that, and then you can hammer it to split apart your spot welds that you've drilled. Just there where it's coming through that hole that I've drilled and splitting it apart, and then I just, you know, use my hammer on the end of it and then we identify where the next spot weld is. This is one of the worst jobs on a Mini, trying to separate all these different plates here. Yay. I'll see you in a bit when it's done. Victory then. And actually this plate is all cleaned up okay. We'll get rust prevention in here, and then I think with the new panel under here it will have some reasonable strength. Cut ourselves out 2 plates. I'm going to drill the same 2 holes that I've got on there. Why have I got 2 plates? Well, that's the boot floor and that's the strengthening plate that's under the boot floor. So we need both pieces. So they'll go like that. Then I'll spot weld them together along here so they become one piece. So once they're spot welded together and they've got those 2 holes all the way through, I'll just remove, just so I can show you, we'll just take that bottom plate away. When that sits in there, we'll use those 2 holes to weld down onto that underlying plate there. Alright, so now the two sides that are going to get welded together obviously need a bit of protection. So we're just using a copper weld through because they're going to get spot welded together. That's got him with some proper paint on. Not going to be able to spot weld this onto the bottom of the car because the arms won't fit, but we've got 3 holes here that will plug weld. These ones will get plug welded down from the top, and then this one from underneath. These will get plug welded from underneath, and then we'll just put some welds around the edges. Obviously we've got 2 big bolts going through it, so it's not going anywhere. Time to get that on the car. So here we can see the repair underneath this hole in the corner here, and we've carried on the double skin, so I made that in the patch as well. And then we're going to get that welded onto the 3-way closing panel underneath now. Bit more new metal in the car then. Let's got that welded up under there. Just looking at welding this bracket in here then, thinking to myself, oh, maybe I've mounted it in slightly the wrong place, because there's a bit of a gap between the top of that bracket and the arch. Fortunately though, we have still the other side of the car, and if you look here, it's not even welded onto the arch on that section. Just here, it's not even welded on, and there's a good 3-4 mil gap there. So I mean, it's fairly OEM. So my OEM gap here will match up quite nicely. I'll do my best to weld as far along here as I can, just to give it extra strength, but I was worried that it wasn't right. Turns out that's just how they are. Just take the door off to do the doorstep before we do the floor. That seemed like a good idea until I looked at the hinges. This one had 2 studs and 2 nuts on the other side. There they are. This one had nothing, and it had the head of a bolt going in rather than the nut on the stud. That didn't look very good, and it looked extremely rusty around here, so I thought maybe we'll patch the flitch panel. But I'm not sure we're going to be just patching the flitch panel, are we? Because the hinge panel is completely annihilated. When you get to this point, you start to think, is this car too far gone? We've got to put an A panel on it. We were going to do the flitch anyway. The hinge panel steel here needs doing. I'm also going to be doing on this side, the step I've got actually comes up to here, all the way up to this piece, so we can probably do it up to about here, which means this, which will invariably be extremely rusty behind here, we can probably come past that. So it does just then mean fixing the hinge panel, which is not an easy thing to do, especially since everything's a bit rusty. I got to think about this and work out how best to resolve this. A panel is kind of gone at the top there, and also at the bottom there, and also here. So cutting away the A panel is not a great loss. Yeah, that's really annoying, because I was hoping just to do this and then get on with the floor quite quickly. But I've got to have a rethink now.